Round number 2 of the Medieval Racing League's inaugural season makes its first trip out west here to the Phoenix Raceway, or ISM Raceway, here for the Beat the Heat 156 here in Avondale, Arizona. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening here tonight. Alongside me in the booth tonight is going to be Tony Trapasso. And Tony, first time broadcasting this league, but a lot of the names you will remember from MPI last year. This is going to be an interesting race, a track and car combination we haven't seen in quite some time.
No, definitely. It's not a car that we see used often anymore in the iRacing simulator, and I'm glad to see these guys are digging it out. Everybody's running the same car. Go at it. May the best driver win.
And that's what we are going to see for 156 laps here tonight in the Beat the Heat 156. And it's going to be quite difficult to top what happened last week at Daytona with an incredible finish with Collins and Biesinger running out of fuel coming out of turn 4. Calamity ensuing at the line. And the man who currently sits at the top of the timing pylon, Ryan Bean, coming out victorious in the first points race of this new league.
Well, I mean, Ryan Bean, he's always going to be one to reckon with whenever you come to, a track like we had last week. The guy knows how to read the draft, plain and simple.
And certainly was able to catch up from a long way back with the fuel strategy and coming in a little bit earlier than everybody else as we look to wind down these last couple of minutes here of this practice session before we hit qualifying, as we'll take a look at what's coming up here for the remainder for the start of this brand new week here on ESPN. Tomorrow night will be the Rowdy Energy Cup Series. They will be at Talladega for round number 10 of their season. Then a double dip on Tuesday night with the MX5 Pro Series. They will be at the Nürburgring for the UK Sim Racing Series. Jake Sperry and James Whitehouse will be in the booth for that, coming up at 2:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And then it'll be Ryan Williams and Ben Bruno in for the nightcap with the Western States Racing League. They will be at Michigan for round 15 of their 20-race season. So they are coming to the end of their season. They put on a great race last week at the Nashville Fairgrounds. That race will begin at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming up on Wednesday will be yet another doubleheader. Will be the Endurance for Beginners race. Round number 4 of their season will be coming to you live from Sebring International Raceway. That race will start at 8:25 p.m. Eastern Time, and then starting at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time will be the Sim Racers Edge Alpha Series. They will be at Iowa for, I believe it's going to be round 12 of their season coming up. So that season winding down as well, about a month to go for Sim Racers Edge. Then on Thursday will be a season finale. It'll be the DOB 410 Sprint Series and the Big Block Modified Series running their season finales at the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that is going to provide plenty of entertainment, especially for a season finale.
Absolutely, and in case you folks missed it, the World of Outlaw sprint cars and the Big Block Modifieds were at Bristol this weekend. And anybody want to take a guess what pole time was for the 410 sprint cars?
Give me about 10 seconds.
Close. 13.
Oh, well, there you go. That's
13 flat.
Yeah, that's moving quick in one of those little buggies for sure, as we are about to begin the qualifying session here this evening. Be a 2-lap qualifying. Again, this is, well, we'll get into that actually a little bit later on, as this qualifying session getting set to begin. It looks like it's going to be Kevin Sibilia in the 78 will be the first car out to take time. And Sibilia will lead the way. Rusty Modesty, Trevor Massetti on track as well. Those are the only three right now that are currently out on the racing surface. And Sibilia is going to be restarting that lap.
Safe bet.
So we'll switch to the 6. This is Rusty Modesty in the number 6. And Modesty, and notice the cones there on the inside. They will not be allowed to cut the dog leg here tonight, so that adds another big a big moment and a big factor. That's the word I was looking for, into this race.
Well, in most cases, it's a good thing because, you got guys that want to go down there, guys that don't want to go down there. This way, it kind of keeps everybody on a more even keel. As Trevor Massetti jumps to the top of the early leaderboard in the 8.
Just making one quick adjustment here, see if that fixes something, and we'll get you right back up. There's Mr. Modesty. Sliding his way, coming off of turn 4. And Trevor Massetti, there he is in the number 3. Or pardon me, in the number 8. I'm so used to, there it was, I'm so used to calling him in the number 3. I think we might have to revert back here to what we were just doing. Here's the 2 of William Roberts coming out of the dogleg here on his second lap. And Roberts had a very good run going at Daytona, was a part of the big pack that was coming up at the end. Just unfortunately for him, could not make it there. Roberts has slotted himself into P2, and that is where he will stay after his second lap. As we look at Jordan Eder coming across the line, or maybe not, as he spins and dumps it coming out of turn 4. We will move now to Jeff Carson in the number 9, and Carson will sit in 10th position.
And so far, only 4 drivers have gone sub 28.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I had to black it out here, trying to make sure the paint schemes are correct. That's my apologies. Probably should have done that a little bit sooner as we're watching the man who finished second at Daytona. This is Kevin Ruff here in the number 12. Ruff had a very quick time in practice, was hovering around that top 5 throughout the vast majority of practice, currently sitting in 10th right now, and he'll jump up into the 8th position. As we'll take a look at Ryan Bean, who is about to finish his first lap.
Being, again, one of those 4 drivers, only 4 guys have gone sub 28 tonight. That's your current pole sitter, Trevor Massetti, who did it both in practice and again in qualifying. William Roberts just did it in qualifying to go P2 currently, as Bean goes 3rd quick on his opening lap. Second lap looks to be a little more tidy.
Looks to be a little bit more tidy, but unfortunately, at least at the first half of the circuit, not quicker. Second half is a personal best for Bean, and that will move him a little bit closer, but that will keep him slotted in that second position, that third position, pardon me. Everybody else out on track right now has already taken time. So Jordan Collins, Carl Burke, those guys have already taken their time. Brian Fine, however, here in the number 57, has not yet. He's about to start his first lap. As Fine will get his lap done about halfway through this session, and that will leave only Kevin Zabladil, the only driver that has not set a time after Brian Fine crosses the line here momentarily. And there he goes. So Brian Fine will jump up into the 13th position. 21 drivers scheduled to start this race here tonight. Very comparable to what we saw back at Daytona last week. Fine, a personal best through the first half of the lap. Second half of the lap looking pretty good as well. Able to keep it nice and low coming out of turn 4. Fine personal bests at both ends of the racetrack, and that will move him up into 6th. So a very good time there from Brian Fine, as we got about 4.5 minutes to kill here. This racetrack, it's a very difficult racetrack in the fact that it's hot here. It's incredibly hot here in the desert in Arizona, as I believe Zabladil's about to make his qualifying time there. He is in the 17. So that makes this racetrack very tricky, especially with 2 different corners, banking-wise and profile-wise, down at each end of the racetrack.
Very much so. I mean, you're going to see a lot of guys kind of hugging down towards that yellow line, going through 1 and 2, let the car kind of drift out. Zabadil kind of running a little bit higher through 1 and 2 than he probably should be. But as we've seen time and time again here at the Diamond in the Desert, that second lane going through 3 and 4, where you can keep it wound up and carry more momentum down the front straightaway, will play dividends before tonight's out.
Certainly will. Zabladil goes up to the 12th position on his first time, as tried to cut as much of that dog leg as he could. Right there, back end really looking out of shape, and that's going to kill the second end of this lap.
Well, he overcooked it going into 3, so we kind of had to chase it.
Yeah, and so Zabladil will stay in the 12th position. So now the field is officially set here for tonight's Beat the Heat 156 here at Phoenix. We'll get you the grid here in just a second as we let the final 2.5 minutes roll off the clock. 36 degrees Celsius. That's approaching 100 degrees track temperature.
96.
Yep, 96. So yeah, it's a very hot, slick racetrack here. Somewhat late in the day, so shadows are going to become a thing, and that is something these guys are going to have to worry about later on in this race. But it's a very hot, very slick racetrack, especially with these cars. We noted last week, not really no rear spoiler to speak of on these cars, and this is a place where they're really going to want them.
Absolutely. Unseasonably cool temperatures for the Phoenix Metroplex right now, though. 79-degree ambient air temperature.
Yeah.
So something to kind of keep mindful of as the time starts to wear down here, as we're only about 4:45 in the afternoon. 7-mile-an-hour wind, though, out of the northeast, so they're going to be getting it going into going into the dog leg. They're going to be facing that headwind. So with the amount of speed that they're going to be carrying going into turn 1, on cold tires, slick racetrack, we could see some interesting opening laps here.
Yeah, what you're seeing right now behind the timing pylon here is the only bit of this racetrack that's covered in any significant shade here, and that is the outside of turn 1. But other than that, this track is being completely bathed in sunlight, and that is certainly, again, going to play a factor. I know we're harping on it a lot here, but as you just mentioned, cold tires, hot racetrack, turn 1, especially in these cars, low downforce, can be quite entertaining once this thing goes green.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see who the wheelmen are. And I said wheel, W-H-E-E-L. Those who can get up on that wheel early, and you're going to have to be on it from the drop of the green, as we've seen time and time again with the caliber of drivers that are in this league. I'm kind of looking down the order here, and I'm only seeing one driver that either doesn't have an A-class license or is not ready to be promoted to an A-class license on the oval side of the pavement series here in iRacing.
So that's just a high caliber of field here that these guys bring in. As we'll take a look now at the starting lineup here for tonight's race. Trevor Massetti takes the pole with a 27.953. William Roberts Jr. I did the same thing last week. William Roberts Jr. Missing out on pole by 4/100ths of a second. That will complete the front row. Ryan Bean and Carl Burke will make up row number 2. Row 3 goes to Mark Odell and Brian Fine. Chad Biesinger and Matt Opbrook will make up row number 4. Row 5 will see Rusty Modesty and Michael Sheffield, with Kevin Ruff and Kevin Zabladil making up row number 6.
Jordan Collins and Briggs Swope are going to make up row 7. Row 8 is going to see Ryan Easel and Josh Maxwell. Kevin Sibilia and Jerry Culver are going to make up row 9, with row 10 going to Jordan Eder and Michael Hero. Jeff Collins going to be starting shotgun on the field all by his lonesome in the 21st starting position. And again, we want to give a big thanks to the gentleman up in race control tonight. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're seeing, don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, share, turn on bell notifications so you don't miss a single moment of action here on the ESPN family of broadcasts.
Absolutely. And we had just passed the 1,500 subscriber mark on Facebook 2 weeks ago, actually during the duels here for this race. And I believe it was Byron that noticed last night that we've also surpassed 2,000 followers on Facebook as well. So we're hitting a lot of marks, and it's all thanks to all of you who tune in to watch every single week as the cars roll off here and get set to go for 156 laps here tonight. We only one pace lap, and it is going to be an entertaining race from start to finish here.
Absolutely. It's always fun when we come to IMS.
Certainly is. Now, there are stages here in this series, but again, just like Daytona, there will not be cautions for the stages. Stage 1 will end at lap 40, stage 2 will end at lap 80, and then they will go to the end of the race here tonight. As they come off of quarter number 4, Trevor Massetti and William Roberts Jr. will lead them down. The Beat the Heat 156 from Phoenix is green.
Massetti and Roberts going side by side. Massetti getting a little bit of an advantage. He's going to fall in behind as he splits Massetti and Bean going through the dogleg.
Looks pretty cordial here as Matt Opbrook falling back in that 16 as he has had an issue at some point here on this first lap. There's another car down way on the inside sliding. That's Kevin Zabladil in the 17. So there's been an issue somewhere. Also the 14, a Briggs Swope with some damage on the front end of that race car. So some guys have gotten together coming out of turn 2.
Go back and see if I can see what happened.
Yeah, we'll take a look here. So here they go, going off into turn 1.
Yeah, he banged the wall coming off of 2 and then got, coming through the dog leg, he banged the wall and then stacked him up behind him, and 17 gets turned, and
that looked to be a little bit of net code, and yep, you're right, there's the 17 getting spun after the checkup.
Carson got in trouble in the 9, so
it looked like the 6 of Rusty Modesty, there he is. Might have been a little bit of net code between the 6 and the 16 that set that off.
Yeah, because the way that Opbrook tagged that wall coming through the dog leg,
Looked like
there
he got
shouldn't have been.
bounced.
Yeah.
That did not look like he went there on his own. As we go back up to the front of this field here, Trevor Massetti, William Roberts, Ryan Bean, and Mark Odell this top group of 4 here as this race now starts to settle in. Tires starting to warm up. And Masetti right now doing what he did the last time we saw him here, and that's kind of control the field. It was a different car then, but he's pretty much doing the same nevertheless as Jordan Collins and Kevin Ruff battle that for the 9th position further back in the field.
Yeah, those two guys are just throwing haymakers at each other as looks like Ruff going to be able to wrestle it away from Collins. Collins going to have to fall back a little bit, and then you've got just a monster gap back to Sheffield.
It's a 1.7 second gap as Ryan Ezell and Jeff Carson. Now Carson started in the last position. He's already up into 12th in that number 9. So Carson moving his way up through this field nicely. That's Matt Opbrook there in the 16 trying to recover from that first lap incident. And that's a lot of damage on the front end of Opbrook's number 16.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage on the front, and there's a lot of damage on the right side of that car, completely pancaked, as that's going to definitely affect the aero as tonight wears on and the tires start to wear off.
Only 3 sets of tires that these guys get here. In the fuel window, they are estimating to be between 75 and 80 laps here. So you can make it on one pit stop, as Rusty Modesty is now coming under fire from the 13 of Collins, and he's going to let Collins go by in that number 13. And Collins already on 5 spots.
I was going to say, I don't think Collins was going to give him much of a choice in that one.
You know, Modesty had a very, very good run. I'm sorry, Collins had a very, very good run on Modesty going down into turn 3. Deciding discretion, the better part of valor there. Here is the top group. Starting to see Carl Burke and Brian Fine make some inroads on this front group. There's Carl in the 53. Brian Fine in the 57 just behind them. These guys slowly but surely starting to make their way up to the front, making it turning it from a 4-car front group into a 6-car front group.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Carl and Brian have already picked up almost a full second on these guys, as they're starting to really put some distance between themselves and the 23 of Basinger.
Yeah, Masetti is still the quickest car on the racetrack. Actually, make that William Roberts the fastest car on the racetrack last time through. Ryan Dean also right there looking to go 2 for 2 on this young season. And again, going back to the 2013 cars, going back to the 2013 point system, going back to the 2013 schedule, they wanted to try to make this as legitimate as possible, and they certainly succeeded.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I said before in the open, it's good to see, some of the cars that don't get a lot of love anymore in the iRacing servers being used in a league like this. This was, the first of the air quote current generation cars, if you will. I mean, yes, it's a few years old, but it was still one of the first that they scanned. And to have this car being brought back into the fray in competition, it's great to see.
Absolutely. We're riding on board now with Trevor Masetti, who is your current race leader, as we work lap 13 of 156.
Looks like Odell's starting to fall off the pace in the 81 a little bit.
Yeah, I did notice that as well. Odell was, last time we saw Odell, he was right up there on the back of Bean in the 28. And now Odell starting to fall backwards into the clutches of Burke and Fine. And however, Burke and Fine now not quite making the inroads that they were a minute ago. So it would appear as though that Odell moving back has given the illusion that Burke and Fine are actually moving up.
Well, I mean, if you take a look at the split, they're actually not gaining it. They're actually losing time to Odell right now. So perhaps Burke and Fine may have gone a little too hard, a little too soon. but they're still putting some distance as Collins gets around Basinger. Um, so look for him to start to move up here a little bit.
Collins right now is the fastest car, is one of the faster cars on the racetrack that is not running in this front group in 13. Up 6 positions from where he started. We were talking about Jeff Carson moving up from the last position up into 12th, up 9 spots from where he was at the start of this race. He is sort of stalled out as well in that 12th position. We are also seeing a change up towards the front as Ryan Bean has gotten around William Roberts, and this is how he did it. It's like Roberts just pushed way too hard going into turn 1, and from there the pass was academic.
And that's kind of what happens when, you know, you've got a guy like Bean behind you, and you know that he's already got 1 win on the season. You start driving out of your mirror more than you should, and turn 1 comes up real quick.
That has brought Mark Odell back into the picture here for the 2nd spot as we take a look at this 3-car tango for the 3rd position. This allowed Trevor Massetti to get out to just under a 2nd lead over Ryan Bean, and right now these two up at the front are running very, very comparable lap times, both of them hitting a 29.05 the last time around. We'll see what they can do this time by. It's a 29.10 for Massetti. Compare that to a 29.02 for Ryan Bean.
If Bean gets into clean air, lights out. And it's plain and simple right there. Is looks like Brian Fine has gotten by Carl Burke as well for the number 5 slot.
Yep, that has happened, and we will take a look at that here right now. Going into the dog leg, and now you can't cut the dog leg. However, you can cut it down to the cones, and we've seen that before with the Sim Racers Edge broadcast that we've done from here. You can make that dog leg work for you. It's just that dramatic cut all the way down to the inside wall. That's not an option.
Well, it's a safety thing. I mean, you get down there where not a lot of guys are running. It's dirty down on that apron. So you're bringing debris up on the track. You've got debris on your tires. And you've got the transition to deal with. You know, you can kind of see right now the guys that they're hauling the mail aren't really going down towards those cones. They're just kind of leaving it up on the track. Maybe hanging one to help the car rotate a little bit, but they're kind of staying to the right of that yellow line, making sure that the car is happy, and a happy car is a happy driver.
Michael Sheffield has gotten around Rusty Modesty, and now Jeff Carson will do the same in that number 9. As this field has spread out quite a bit here in the first 22 laps. There's your visual representation, as I believe that's the 3 of Jerry Culver, not that far away from being lapped on track right now as Massetti goes into turn 1. There's Culver getting set to go out of turn 2. You can see that with the 3 on the track map.
Yeah, absolutely. Culver is struggling right now, and I'm not sure if he hit something or if he's just not happy with the way that car is performing right now. But if you take a look at his split times going through the corners, he's about 5 to 10 miles an hour off the pace of some of these guys running up towards the front.
My assumption would be that that's a feel issue, that there's something that is not jiving on that race car right now with Jerry Culver. It does look as though he's got a little bit of damage right at the middle of the rear bumper, but other than that, it appears to be just a feel thing right now for the 3 of Culver, as now here comes Massetti, Bean, and Roberts, the top of the group.
And then you take a look a little bit further ahead, and there's a few more guys in front of him that are in grave danger of going a lap down early here.
Josh Maxwell, Briggs Swope is there as well, as I believe Maxwell is about to get around the 14 of Swope. Now Maxwell took a big slide going through turns 3 and 4 on that opening lap incident. We also see that Briggs Swope has some damage from that incident as well. As we flying right by here at Phoenix, working lap 26 of 156.
Culver doing the sportsman thing and just staying out of the way of this battle for the lead, as Ryan Bean filling the rearview mirror right now of Trevor Massetti in the 8.
Yep, Bean has certainly gotten right up to the rear end of the race leader, Trevor Massetti, who has led every single lap thus far. Yep, that was Culver getting into the wall. We just caught that as we jumped on the back end of Massetti's number 8.
Completely missed the braking point going into 1 and just ate the turn 1 wall.
So Massetti, Culver, Massetti, Bean up here, and then it's a 1.1 second gap between Roberts and Odell. And Odell seems to have found the life in that car. Now Roberts' last lap would have been affected by Culver being in front of him, but still Odell has found life in that number 81 and starting to make a charge back up.
Absolutely. Is if it wasn't for the having to check up for Culver, I think Roberts might have been the first one to go. No, I take that back. I was looking at the wrong thing. But I'm looking at the lap times, and the tire fall off is huge here tonight. Over a second and a half for some of these guys.
Best lap of the race right now is a 28.03, and that was set by William Roberts. It's actually just been passed by the 81 of Odell. And the best time last time around was Jordan Collins, who put in a 29. Trevor Massetti, who put in a 29.29. That is a 1.3 second drop off.
Yeah. And it just kind of goes to show you what clean air can do. As Massetti's in the clean air, Bean in the dirty air, looks to the inside going into 1 and 2, looks to pull alongside on the exit of 2, does pull alongside as they headed into the dog leg. Bean with a nose out front, Massetti going to let him go way too early to be battling real hard right now, and we've got a new leader just like that.
And it definitely looked as though once Massetti saw that the 28 had gotten under him, that he was pretty content with giving up that position. So now for the first time tonight, somebody other than Trevor Massetti will cross the start line first. Only took 32 laps, but finally Ryan Bean has gotten up from that third place starting position to make that pass on the 8, as everyone else seeming pretty spread out, except that was a big wiggle from the 7 of Michael Hero as he battles Kevin Zabladil, this for the 14th spot. This is the closest battle on track that's not for the race lead.
Yeah, those guys are kind of going at it hammer and tong right now, which it's a little early to be battling as hard as those guys were for the past couple of laps and as close as they'd been running. Yes, if you've got a faster car, try to use it. But when you're running that far back and you know you've got traffic coming up, you're just kind of wasting tires at this point.
Speaking of traffic coming up, there is quite a decent amount of traffic in front of the 28 of Ryan Bean, and this is kind of what we're going to be seeing the rest of the race. There are cars in a ring all the way around this racetrack now. Hard to find a spot to where you are alone, as the 14 of Briggs Swope makes it incredibly easy for Ryan Bean, as he should, and the next car up to be lapped is going to be Josh Maxwell in the 88.
And the 88 still a little bit ways off as Swope flirts with that safer barrier, trying to give Massetti a shot to get by him on the inside. Finally breaks a little early going into 3 to give Massetti some clean air. And Massetti's got some ground to make up now as he's almost a full second back from your leader, Ryan Bean.
And all of this is also bringing Mark Odell into the picture here in the number 81. He is slowly but surely moving his way towards Trevor Massetti at a big gain of about 3/10 last lap, but that was also because Massetti was dealing with Swope, as actually Odell had the fastest lap last time around at a 29.49. So that 81, we saw him moving back before, really starting to make his way forward now as we're about halfway through this fuel run.
Absolutely. It's the 28 of Ryan Bean. Looks like he might be starting to have the early onsets of connection issues. Getting a little bit of the blinkies, but not too bad yet.
Yeah, we did. We noticed that before as he was making the pass for the race lead. Speaking of making a pass, this is for the 4th position with Brian Fine. Boy, what a slide. And a big save by Brian Fine as he tried to get on the inside of Roberts. And this is big because we're working lap 38 of 156. We are 2 laps away, 2.5, away from the end of stage 1. And again, this series, they run stages, they hand out stage points for the top 10, but no cautions here for the stage breaks. So these stages tend to sneak up and sneak by.
As we got one into the wall right in front of that battle, and that looked like the 16?
In front of Roberts, and that's the 14. It was
No,
in
it's
front of
behind them now. It was as they were going out of 4.
That might have been, I think that was the 88 of Maxwell. There's now Roberts.
He banged the turn 4 wall pretty good.
But now Roberts looking on Maxwell here. There's, boy, a big slide there as we come through the turn 3 and 4 complex to complete lap 40, and Ryan Bean is your stage 1 winner. So now we will just continue right on to stage 2. Stage 2 comes at the end of lap 80, but Ryan Bean takes home max points for winning the first stage of the evening.
And he does it just as he puts Jordan Eder a lap down. Next in his sights is going to be the 78 of Kevin Sibilia.
Sibilia, a good little ways away. It's about a 5 or 6 second gap, as there is the 78 of Sibilia. Roberts now coming under pressure once again from the 57 of Fine, as these guys are having a good old battle here. And over the last couple of laps, you can see here, Fine has been the quicker of the 2 drivers. Fine goes to the inside, going into turn 3, doesn't quite have the position, but boy, the back end of that 2 really steps out.
It looks like he may have overcooked it a little bit and gotten on the brakes a little bit. He might have a little bit extra rear brake dialed in to help it turn through turns 1 and 2. But was able to carry a little more momentum on that second lane. So the second lane already starting to show dividends for Will Roberts in the deuce.
And that middle lane here at Phoenix, we saw it a lot with Sim Racer's Edge, that middle lane here does work, and you can carry momentum on that middle lane, as it looks as though Roberts is coming into pit road here. So about halfway through what the projected pit cycle would be, Roberts says no mas.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how long he stays on pit road, as he's still not in his pit stall. I'll keep an eye on that for us. But he's the first one to bring it pit side. Actually, second one is Josh Maxwell has already gone pit side. Looks like he took 4 in fuel on the 88.
But with Maxwell being a lap down, that's pretty much inconsequential, at least to the lead battle. Kevin Ruff now in the 12, battling with the 23 of Chad Biesinger.
And Will Roberts just did the same thing, 4 in fuel for the 2.
Yep, So now we're going to see how long it takes for these guys to bring it in. Again, being in the top 5, I would think that's either a strategy call or he's trying to pull drivers into pit road with him here this early on. As we take a look at the battle for the 7th spot, as Ryan Bean has pulled out a 1-second lead here over the rest of the field. We're going to step aside here for a quick moment. You are watching the Beat the Heat 156 from Phoenix Raceway here for the Medieval Racing League, round number 2 of the inaugural season. We will be back right after this. Don't go anywhere. You are watching round 2 coverage here of the Medieval Racing League on ESPN. We just saw moments ago Ryan Bean enter pit road for his first pit stop of the night. Now Trevor Massetti takes it pit side. Michael Sheffield's in as well. Mark Odell now will bring it down into pit road after getting his 5 bonus points for leading a lap. And this will hand the lead of the race now over to the 57 of Brian Fine, and we will now see right there the difference between new tires and old tires as the 28 is right on it.
And this is going to be fun to see as the 28 tires starting to just get up to temperature, and you see just how easy he makes that pass going through the flat 3-4 complex.
And holds it, really pushes off the corner well, and meaning gets off the corner well, probably what I should have said. Is Kevin Ruff now comes into pit road in the number 12. He's pitting from the 4th position, and we saw he was battling with Chad Biesinger just before we had gone to break. So Kevin Ruff now trying to get a little bit of an undercut as there's the 5 of Ryan Ezell. Slow coming into pit road, the 23 of Biesinger in. Jordan Collins is in as well. 13 and 23 staying in. Brian Fine trying to stay out as long as he possibly can in that 57.
It looks like he might be trying a one-stop strategy here, hoping that it stays green the entire way, but it's going to be interesting to see. It looks like he might be going pit side this time. Yep, and he calls, no, he doesn't. Stays out.
Trying to help that car turn by keeping it down on the bottom, trying to straddle that line, and that is something you can do around here. Because right now, it's Rusty Modesty, Matt Opbrook, Kevin Zabladil, as well as Brian Fine have not brought it into pit road. Right now, that would be your effective race leader. That is the 2 of William Roberts. who, by virtue of coming in 6 laps prior to Ryan Bean, has now jumped him for the race lead.
And if you take a look at the last lap times between Fine and Roberts, you're talking a full second difference.
Also, you want to spread that out even more. Mark O'Dell in the 81 just set the fastest lap of the race at a 28 dead. So that is incredibly, incredibly quick here for these cars, as Fine, Modesty, Opbrook, and Zabladil still have yet to bring it in. And that is probably why, as the caution comes out, Jordan Eder in the 65, the cause of the first caution of the night on lap 53. Take a look and see what happened here. By himself going into turn 1 and back end swaps ends.
And he was one of the first ones to go pit side as well.
Came to on lap 50. That right there from Eder is the cause of the first caution, and that puts one Mr. Brian Fine in a very good spot.
Absolutely is, well, good and bad, because you figure Roberts is probably going to stay out, Bean's probably going to stay out, Massetti's most likely going to stay out. So he's going to be restarting behind the guys that have already gone pit side but are still on the lead lap, which gives Briggs Swope the final point there.
Matt Opbrook decides to stay out to get the 5 bonus points for leading a lap in that number 16. So William Roberts is going to have to wait a moment before he gets his 5 bonus points. Now Opbrook, at the moment now, is the only driver that has not pit. Actually, I take that back. Make it Briggs Swope has also not come into pit road.
As has Jerry Culver in the 3.
There you go. So now here comes the 16 of Opbrook. Culver coming in. Looks like Swope is in as well. Yep, there he is up at the front of the line. So that will now cycle the lead out to the number 2 of William Roberts, and Brian Fine will be on the freshest tires of the lot, and by quite a decent margin at this point, will slot into the 5th spot here for this restart.
So you gotta wonder a little bit, are the guys in front of him going to be sitting ducks? As you take a look at guys like Roberts, 15 laps on his current set of tires, Bean 9, Massetti 8, O'Dell 7. Those guys, they've got some heat into those tires, but they've also got a heat cycle on them, and that could spell disaster before too much longer here.
You just saw the graphic on screen of who has pit when in the top 5. And you saw on the graphic, Brian Fine has by far and away the freshest tires of the lot. Mark O'Dell coming in on lap 51. It's the only one that can rival him at the moment is Fine, who came in on lap 57 during the caution flag, sits just to his inside flank.
As the lights go out on the Ford Mustang GT 500 pace car. Good to see that official pace car by Racing back.
Oh, we're throwing it back all the way to 2013, remember?
Absolutely, as the field works its way out of the dogleg and into the 3-4 complex. Will Roberts Jr. in the 2 going to have the button as the pace car gets ready to make that hard left turn onto pit road here at the Diamond in the Desert IMS Raceway in lovely the Phoenix Metroplex of Arizona. So Roberts has the button. Field works its way out of turn number 4. He pulls the trigger, green flag comes out, and we are back underway.
Yes, we are, and a big jumble up there on the inside line as Kevin Sibilia in the 78 did not get going. That one splits the top 6 away from the rest of the field is Sibilia having to fend off Kevin Zavladil. And again, both of those guys coming in here on this on this caution flag. As the 2 and the 28 trying to break away from this field here before the guys that came into pit under the caution flag start to move their way up.
And Odell in the 81, his rearview mirror filled right now with the 57 of Brian Fine. Odell, though, not making it easy for Fine.
Absolutely not. We're knocking on the door of halfway here. Massetti, Odell, and Fine sitting third, fourth, and fifth. And this is as far back as Trevor Massetti has been all day long in that number 8. It's Rusty Modesty hanging on to the back of this group in the 6. Then you get a half a second back to Sibilia and Zabladil, and then it's a big 2-second gap all the way back to Jordan Collins in the 13 as the caution has come out again.
Looks like Jerry Culver has a lot of damage on the 3.
There is Culver coming back off the inside of the racetrack there. So Culver appears to be the cause of caution number 2. And yep, it was him and Obrook battling side by side. And that was a case of a slide. And again, we were talking about it this past Wednesday night. That's one that maybe a month ago would not have been a caution.
No, and it's from a driver's standpoint, it's a good thing. From a race fan standpoint, not so much, because iRacing is actually calling more realistic, shall we say, caution flags now.
They certainly are, as Brian Fine is going to lead the field back in. Now, it's interesting to see that all of the drivers that came in under the caution are coming back in again.
I'm expecting fuel only for most of these guys.
I am as well, but it's interesting that the guys who just took fuel and just took tires are coming back in again. Take a look and see what Fine does here. Oh no, he's taking tires.
That's odd.
The rest of the group does not.
He's taking 4.
Kevin Zabladil might have come in to fix damage, but Fine has just blown one of his sets of tires. He's got one more set, and we still have more than half the race to go.
Yeah, and that dropped him from 5th down to 11th.
So Modesty and Sibilia come in and do what we expected them to do, which was take fuel only. Zabladil had a good amount of damage on his car, and now that is mostly repaired. Fine is the intriguing one.
Not sure what's going on there, but it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. As
only explanation to me would be that he just forgot to take them off.
Yeah, but even then, as soon as the right side went up, you still should have been able to uncheck the left side.
True. So intriguing times here just prior to halfway. And to beat the Heat 156 here at Phoenix. I would have to assume we're about to get back racing here. And again, this is... I did forget that there is a race control here. I must admit, I did forget that there was race control here.
There is, but that was not a race control thrown caution.
Yeah.
And looks like this time Will Roberts going to elect to take the outside lane going on the restart.
That to me would mean he's looking for as straight a run out of turn 4 as possible on this restart. So Roberts again goes to the outside. Ryan Bean still in that same row. Massetti and Odell in row number 2, and the outside line here is going to get a good jump. Look for Sibilia, 5th car on the outside, and at 78. He got a bad restart last time around. We'll see what he can do on this one as we get set to go back to green flag racing here. Green flag is back in the air, and a great jump by Will Roberts gets out to a huge lead as Ryan Bean that time struggled on the restart.
And that was pure gamesmanship there from Roberts, as he was able to get where the rubber is coming off of 4, and he put Bean down where the dirty track is. Massetti almost was able to hang with Roberts, not quite so much as Bean just threw it in going into 1 and just let it eat.
And Bean has now recovered. He has gotten back into position. Massetti, Odell, and now Jordan Collins up into the 5th position. Collins, the biggest mover of the night thus far, up 8 positions from where he started in that number 13. And we saw him earlier on. He's got some damage on the right side of the car now, but we saw how good he was earlier on in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And where you're going to see that damage really start to rear its ugly head is when the tires start to wear out here in another 10 or so laps. When you used all of the goodness off of the rubber, the arrow is really where you're going to get your grip from, and Odell is going to be on an island all by himself.
Approaching halfway here. We're about 8 laps away from the halfway point, and we are 10 laps away from the end of stage number 2 as Roberts looks to try to recover from, I believe it was, a 5th position in the first stage. Was it the 4th or 5th? I do know that. 4th in the first stage. Ryan Bean, the winner of stage 1. Trevor Massetti, Mark Odell, Jordan Collins, the top 5 currently. As now we're starting to see a break here. The top 10 starting to break away, as it's the 16 of Mark Opbrook, who is now breaking away from Kevin Sibilia in the 78. The 9 of Jeff Carson is there, but Carson right now, the first car, not on the lead lap.
As Ebadil goes around Sibilia and drops him another lap back. Looks like Carson might be having some connection issues in the 9, as he's been blinking quite profusely as of late.
He might be, so we will keep an eye on that as this race moves on. But right now, the top 4 are locked in a very close duel, as now Mark Odell takes a cheeky little look to the inside of Trevor Massetti, and that's one of the reasons why talking about not being able to use that cut in the dog leg certainly might have hindered Odell there. He got down low as he could go, but not enough to sneak under, and if he could have gone further, he might have been able to get under him.
Right, but that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where if you've got a guy that goes real low, A, he's going to be dragging all that dirt back up onto the track, and B, it all depends on if the guy to your outside wants to let you back up there, because you went off the racing surface.
Absolutely right, and understand why there's not a lot of grass at new racetracks anymore, or racetracks that are being remodeled, and unfortunately it brings that kind of nonsense into racing.
Well, it's also easier on the groundskeeping crews. They don't have to mow the damn thing.
Fair enough. As Roberts currently leading Bean as we work lap number 76 of 156, and seeing a lot of different lines all throughout the racetrack here, as now Bean starting to move up a little bit in turn 4. Roberts trying to hug that inside line, take the shortest way around here possible. Bean might be trying to diamond the corner and saving his tires a little bit.
There's a possibility there, but I'm liking the strategy that Bean's using going through 3 and 4. Is he's not pinching the car off, letting it rotate, and just carrying so much more momentum, you really see him gain an advantage at the end of the front straightaway.
You can see
And
how
just as I say that, he makes me a liar.
yeah. He did gain a lot of momentum coming up through the middle of the corner, and that's right where Roberts would have been waiting for the car to rotate. As now O'Dell gets around Trevor Massetti coming through turns 1 and 2. As we will getting closer to halfway.
And we're just past halfway. Popsicle sticks in the air, though, for the stage win. Roberts just has to hang on for a lap and a half more as they go through the 3-4 complex again. Rearview mirrors filled with the 28 of Ryan Bean right now. As O'Dell trying to reel those guys in, not letting them get too far out. As white flag for the stage is out for Will Roberts in the 2.
There is a chance here. Of course, the checkered flag is the one you want. But of course, the green and white checkered flag is always nice to have. As coming out of turns 3 and 4, it will be William Roberts who will come away with the stage. So the first 2 runners here on track have won the first 2 stages of tonight's race, and now we are straight to the finish.
And considering that Frank just jinxed the entire field, you can get your hate mail coming now, folks. That's Frank
No,
Marchese.
I meant more. We don't have to worry about stages. That's not what I meant. I'm not saying straight green to the no more stages. I don't think I can jinx that.
And the top 3 are starting to really pull away right now as Massetti seems to be falling off as he's about 31 laps on his tires right now. And it looks like Brian Fine, who came in and got his second set of 4, not able to make a lot of headway as he restarted in 11th. He's only made it up to 8th so far.
It does appear that this package here with these cars, it is quite difficult to pass and get a run. Now, in iRacing, it's difficult enough to do that on its own, as this top 3 here are getting quite close.
You've got to set the pass up 2 to 3 laps in advance or more.
There's a
And then
lot that can happen in 2 to 3 laps.
Right, and then hope that lap traffic doesn't get in your way when you do it.
Or hope that you don't get in your own way, as now it looks as though Ryan Bean about to do the same thing he did to Trevor Massetti, get on the inside going into turn 1. He will do just that. Bean will take the lead. Now he's going to have to cover off from O'Dell going into turn 3. And O'Dell and Roberts just do kiss each other and makes the pass. So Roberts wins the stage, but immediately falls down to 3rd right after. And he's having problems.
He had to deal with that lap car, and I think he may have browned his fire suit.
Things just going from bad to worse right now for William Roberts, as Roberts has lost the top 2 and then drove it into turn 1 way too hard, and Massetti got around it.
Well, he does have the oldest tires on track right now.
Yes, he does. Lap 43. Let's take a look at that again. There's the top 5, and you are correct. That's older by a lot, especially around a track like this.
6 laps.
Yeah.
Or more.
Like I said, especially around here, this is certainly not the place you want to be lesser on tires.
And here's a little interesting that you don't normally see here at the Diamond in the Desert. The track temperature has actually fallen almost 10 degrees since the drop of the green.
Wow. So there's some track dynamic for you.
In reverse.
Yeah. Well, then again, it also is getting later in the day, so that would also be playing a big factor in it.
Right, but when you take the temperature reading on the racing line itself, all the way around this track, is still in the sun.
Yeah, this is turns 1 and 2. If anything, are going to get the shadows first, and we saw that as we'll look back here. This is Kevin Ruff battling with Carl Burke. This is for the 6th position. Brian Fine there as well, and it looks as though Ruff is going to take the position, and Fine is going to jump in on Burke as well. Shadows really haven't changed much from where they started this race, as Fine will complete the pass. So that's 6th and 7th for Ruff and Fine, respectively.
As we are, current date in sim is actually the middle of May.
Wow!
That could have gotten ugly.
Yeah, that was a big slide by Brian Fine coming out of turn 4, and a great save on his part. Ruff also had a slide, not nearly as dramatic though.
Unfortunately, Carl Burke not close enough to really capitalize on either one. I think he may have checked up a little bit just to make sure he stayed out of both guys.
We're getting back up to the front of this field here, as Mark O'Dell right now is all over the back end of Ryan Bean, and this is part of the reason why these guys are having handling issues. See how small that rear spoiler is? That is certainly not helping these cars. That is sliding that back end around a lot. Now, this is a place where normally the back end slides around, but here it's almost exacerbated 2 or 3-fold by how small that rear spoiler is.
Well, compared to the new Camaro that is the current A-Class car, this car, I believe, has a 3-inch shorter rear spoiler, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's night and day for these cars.
Rear end downforce. The downforce in and of itself is not necessarily what these cars do. So you want every bit of it once you get it. And when you take it off, it certainly is. Oh, wow, that was a big slide from O'Dell, and that was just coming out of turn 2.
It looks like he may have jumped on the power just a little too hard, a little too quick, and it looks like he might be bringing it pit side within the next lap or so.
These guys went 50 laps there or thereabout on the first set of tires and fuel here, and right now, if they were to pit here, they'd have to go an extra 10, so they'd have to go 60 on a tank of fuel and tires.
That's where the number 2 of Will Roberts is right now, working lap 50, getting ready to put 51 in the books.
For Roberts, it's, again, worth noting, we ran about 8 laps under caution here, so that takes a lot of wear, that takes life and puts it back into the tire. Roberts went 43. If he's looking to do 60 laps, that's 17 laps more than he was willing to do on his first set.
Well, he may have been doing fuel calculations during that first fuel run and just wanted to make sure that he had the tires and the fuel to get there. He still has 2 sets of tires in his pocket. The only one that's already burned 2 sets of spares is the 57 of Brian Fine, who is currently sitting in the number 7 slot.
Yep, and that was just what I was about to say, is that Fine right now is in that position to where he might have to push 60 laps on a set of tires. Now, if he's going to do that, he's going to be out here for a while. But we've seen how much you can gain. We saw that Roberts, by coming in, he was about 5 or 6 seconds off the leaders by coming in 6 laps early. He gained all of that back and then put about 2 to 3 more seconds down on Ryan Bean. So the undercut is absolutely huge here, and if you stay out on older tires, that could really be a detriment, as Ruff, Collins, and Fine are really starting to battle up here for the 5th spot.
Well, when you're talking between a second and a quarter to a second and a half difference between fresh tires and old tires, yeah, the undercut is huge or can be huge if you time it right. Um, I'm thinking a lot of these guys are probably going to wait, come in, until the tank is just about bingo, or just about out of fuel on fumes, take a set, and then have a spare set of tires should we get a late race caution. You'll see everybody come in, get their final set who has them, and then go back out and let it eat. The one thing that I wish iRacing would do that you can do in real life that you can't really do here in the simulator yet is take a look at your old sets of tires and fashion an extra set from your already takeoffs. Yeah. Which would play into Brian Fine's hands because he only had about 10 laps on his last set of tires. So if the sim would let him do that, he would be in good shape because he'd already have a heat cycle on him. He'd already have all the nice worn off of them, and those tires would be ready to go. As we've got our first taker down pit road, and it's going to be 53 of Carl Burke.
Yep, Carl Burke came down. Trevor Massetti now in pit road in that number 8 from the 3rd position. Now Massetti came in on lap 51 his last time through. Carl Burke down and away. Looks like Burke only took 2 tires. Only a 9.18 second stop. As, that was Bean getting way out of it. Bean was trying to get into pit road.
And almost took Odell with him.
Yeah, Odell, he had to really get up and out of the way. And that, we talk about losing time on pit road. That's certainly going to be a time coster for Ryan Bean.
Absolutely, as Roberts going in with him. So this is going to be fun to see how this one plays out, as he lost a ton of time there.
Odell, we're gonna ride on board. We're gonna watch it again here. We just showed it, but we're gonna show it again here. On board of Odell, he thinks he's getting a great run here, but in actuality, Fine is trying to slow down to get into the pit lane, and Fine had to turn right in order to turn left.
And he may have been looking down to make sure he had his tires selected properly, and that may have cost him a little bit there as well. But the two of Will Roberts had a great stop there, 41.9 cone to cone. As we've got Odell finally in pit road. Let's take a look and see how long it's going to take him, as that's going to give Brian Fine the race lead again.
This is what Fine would have been waiting for, is that ability to cycle out into the race lead here once they got all their stuff situated. So Odell is in pit road. And it's also worth noting there that in this battle, this is Trevor Massetti right here behind the 57 of Fine. Massetti has leapfrogged Bean and Roberts. So now the 8 is the effective race leader. And if he can keep the tires on the car, he has the chance. He's going to be in the catbird seat to win this race if it stays green.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just barely see him in some of the shots that peek out as the 57. That's Fine right in front of Bean and Roberts. And we're about to see what old tires and new tires look like right here.
It's about a 40 lap difference, a 42 lap difference between the tires on the 2 and the 57. As they get their laps back the hard way. There is Mark Odell. Now Odell, also by virtue of having to slow down to avoid running into the back of the 28, has now fallen behind the 2. So the 2 of Roberts was definitely the big winner in this round of pit stops by all metrics.
Absolutely. And we saw him really work it the last time. as Odell is still struggling to get by Fine.
Yeah, he's gotten around him now, but it was not the easiest chore for Odell to get around him. Now, Kevin Ruff is going to be doing the same, or at least going to be attempting to do the same, as Fine looks like he might be coming in. That, or he's using that, he's doing the same thing he was doing before, using the apron to try to help that car turn on these older tires. And there might be a point here where you just say, you know what, I think we've heard it enough. Let's just bring it in.
But the thing is, he's going to be on his last set of tires. So he's got to stay out as long as he possibly can bear it. As looks like Bean has closed in on the 8 of Massetti. So that's going to be your effective race lead. Is Fine, Modesty, Zabadul, and Obrecht have not gone pit side yet.
So this is a battle for the 5th position here. And again, as Tony just mentioned, the effective race lead here at the moment. But going back to Brian Fine here for a second, it's a situation where, yes, it is your last set of tires. However, you want to leave yourself enough time to where you can make that set of tires work. And that's the game that he's going to have to play right now. And the caution comes out again. Look at Captain Lucky go. Jeff Carson in the 9 would be the cause of this one.
Oh, yeah, he got it all wrong coming off of 4.
We'll see what happened here. We've seen, boy, he just ran himself into the, wow. Ran himself into the wall. Coming out of 4, he was well on the straightaway. Then once he pulled himself off the wall, that one, it went completely around on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Head first into the inner safer barrier, and he caught that cutout at the end of the pit lane, and that did a ton of damage to the nose of that number 9.
So the top 4 that did not pit under green will pit now. And this will be, once again, about a 10 or so lap advantage that Brian Fine will have, as it was for the first caution. And that will leave Trevor Massetti with the race lead. And a chance to figure out how he's going to keep Ryan Bean behind him again. So what we're going to do here while we work our 3rd caution of the night, we're going to take another quick break. We will be right back. You are watching the Beat the Heat 156 here for the Medieval Racing League, right here on ESPN. Do not go anywhere. You are watching round number 2 of the Medieval Racing League's inaugural season, the Beat the Heat 156. Here from Phoenix Raceway, it will be Trevor Massetti and Ryan Bean leading the pack of cars. Coming out of turn number 4, green flag is back in the air, and we are green with just over 40 to go.
Drag race for third place, as that was Roberts and Odell going side by side. Odell wisely backing out just a little bit, as Kevin Ruff not getting the restart he wanted. He's got Brian Fine filling his rearview mirrors right now.
Absolutely does. And Fine, just talking about Fine during the break here, he's only going to have to go about 45 laps on this set of tires as compared to everyone else. He's going to have to go anywhere between 58 and 55 laps to the end of this race on this set. So Fine can afford to push a little bit harder than everybody else. However, he can't push the advantage out of those tires.
Not this early. It's a little too early to be going way harder than everybody around you. As he looks to the inside of Ruff, going in down the front straightaway side by side. Ruff's going to let him have the position as they go through turn 1.
That's job done there for Brian Fine. As we get down inside of 40 laps to go. The 4 that are up front here, Massetti, Bean, Roberts, and Odell, have been up front pretty much this entire race. It's just depending upon which order they have been in, and this is the order that we saw right at the very beginning of this race, with Massetti taking the pole. And with the inside line jump at the start, Ryan Bean was able to overtake William Roberts. And then Mark Odell able to work his way up into 4th, and this is pretty much where these guys have been ever since. But Brian Fine is all over these guys.
Fine just kind of biding his time right now, as he does have the freshest tires out of your top 5 and out of your top 6 for that matter, as everybody else came in 18 laps ago. And you're going to see that really start to play out as this run starts to wear on, as we are getting ready to start lap 120 of 156.
Use your battle for the lead right here is in your picture here. This is the top 5 cars all in a line. Guys trying to determine whether or not they can use their tires yet, try to save as much as possible. You still have quite a ways to go yet in this race before it's over. Not quite done yet. There's still a lot of chess playing that could happen between now and lap 156.
And the other thing to be careful of too is Brian Fine has used all 4 total sets of tires that he's had tonight. The set you start the race on, you qualify and start the race on, and then he's already burned through his 3 remaining sets, whereas the 4 cars in front of him still have 1 set in reserve if they need it.
And that's just in case. That set would be in reserve just in case there's a late race caution with, say, 10 to go. Give yourself that chance to go all out on a fresh set of tires, and Brian Fine will then have to play defense if the caution were to come out on lap 146 or thereabouts. That means Fine would have to be playing defense on nearly 40 lap old tires, and that is not a position you want to be in.
I would dare say anything inside lap 130, and I'd go in for a set of fresh shoes at that point, because you figure you're going to take 5 laps under pacing to get the field caught back up and everybody in the proper order, and then 15 laps of go hard, at which point Fine would be almost 30 laps on his tires at that point. And
yep, Odell really wild coming out of turn 4.
And let Fine get to his outside as they go out of turn number 2 into the dog leg side by side still. Odell not wanting to give it up. Fine, with a little bit fresher meat on the tires, trying to use that second lane to his advantage, cuts off Odell coming off of 4, and just like that, Brian Fine up into the top 4.
That lap took that pass took an entire lap to complete for Brian Fine, and that would be because he had to do it around the outside. As Fine trying to work his way up, trying to use that 10-lap fresher tire advantage that he has. He's definitely going to be hoping that the rest of this race goes green. We've only had 3 cautions here tonight. Jordan Eder bringing out the first caution just prior to lap 50. Boy, there was a big moment there for Ryan Bean coming out of turn 4, pardon me, as that scattered the top 3, and now William Roberts goes to the inside of the 28. He's looking to take that position, and Fine is going to be looking to follow him right through.
Well, Massetti had to chase it going through 3 and 4, and Roberts got almost pinched into the wall, had to take some evasive actions as Massetti had to chase it down the hill off of 4, and that let Roberts get a run. Roberts going to lose on that one.
Yeah, Roberts had a big slide coming out of turn 4 there. Everyone files back in line where they were, but not without a couple of heart-stopping moments in between, as now Kevin Ruff and Kevin Zabladil have jumped into this fray. So make it a 7-car front pack, as now Brian Fine looks to the inside of William Roberts. And now Fine is up into a podium position as Roberts having an absolute mare of a time here over these last couple of laps.
Roberts may have brushed the wall coming off of 4, trying to avoid Bean, as he had to chase it down the hill on the front straightaway. So there may be a little bit of damage. Yep, there is, just a little bit on the right rear quarter panel of the 2. And that has also let Odell get by him as well.
So I wish I had a telestrator, because you could see right there on that right rear, right by where that the latch pin is for the deck lid. That spoiler knocked in a little bit.
And that loses all of your side bite on corner exit.
Yep, so he's going to be fighting a loose condition the rest of this race. As Kevin Zabladil, who's looked very, very racy in the 17 here as of late. His night started off very, very rough. He was a part of that opening lap incident that did not draw a caution. He's been working his way back ever since, and this is the highest up the field that he's been, up 6 spots from where he started back in 12th.
Well, he got punted going into 3,
yep,
and really had to chase the car down on the apron. So hats off to that crew for getting that car as fixed as they have, and get him into a possible top 5 finishing position.
Yep, absolutely. Is now Trevor Massetti still leading, but he's going to be coming under some serious pressure from Ryan Bean first, and then Brian Fine, as now we have cars on the racetrack in front of them. That's the 88 of Josh Maxwell, and that appears to be the 29 of Michael Sheffield. Now, Sheffield has just been in and out of pit road here within the last couple of laps. Also worth noting here, through the entire 156 laps of this event, not one retirement. Everyone who started this race is still on the racetrack all the way from 1st to 21st.
And hats off to Jeff Carson's team for getting the 9 as repaired as they have. Spent almost 10 minutes in pit road getting that car to where it'll still turn laps competitively.
8 minutes and 21 seconds in the pit lane, 7 minutes 44 seconds in the box for Jeff Carson. To get that number 9 back out on the racing surface is the 88 of Maxwell lets the leaders go, working 24 laps to go here at Phoenix. Massetti, Bean, and Fine, these are the 3 that are looking with the best chance to win this race if the race stays green. Now here comes Bean looking to the inside of Trevor Massetti. Now Bean and Massetti are essentially on the same tire. 1 lap fresher for Bean, and something we didn't see out of Massetti earlier on in the race, giving a lot of fight coming off at turn 2.
We saw him give up that spot earlier, not so much this late in the race as we are inside 20 to, or coming up on 20 to go, as Bean is going to have to work for it this time. But they both got to be careful because Brian Fine has 10 lap fresher tires.
Once again, we'll take a look at it. There's the pit stop delta. There's the pit stop last time these guys have been through pit road. 10 lap fresher for everybody around. As Masetti and Bean, again, it's just proven to be so difficult to pass here tonight. That you really, it might take a chrome horn, but you also have to get up to him to give him the chrome horn.
Well, we've seen Bean get there, but Bean's the type of driver that he doesn't want to win it that way.
Michael Hero in that number 7 jumps up and jumps down and out of the way. Brian Fine now starting to attack Ryan Bean.
Looks like Bean overcooked it going into 3 on that last lap, and that let Fine get a good run on him.
This also let Marco Dell back into this battle. William Roberts still just on the outskirts of the top 4. Sitting in that 5th position, but he is just outside of the battle here for the race win. Brian Fine in the 28, running in 2nd place, the winner of stage 1 here tonight. William Roberts, the winner of stage 2 in that number 2. Trevor Masetti, it started on the pole. In the number 8, Brian Fine, best set of tires of the bunch.
Fine looking to try to make some headway right now. He's got to go, and he's got to go now if he wants any shot at Masetti before this one's all said and done. Masetti with the clean air, though.
He does look like he's putting a little bit more pressure on as now he makes the move, going down to the inside of Ryan Bean. Bean has no other option but to let him through. 17 laps to go at the line. Brian Fine has an 11-lap advantage on tires and has 17 laps to try to make the move for the race win.
Fine has a little bit of a gap to make up on Masetti. Again, Massetti's got the fresh air, which with this car that doesn't have a lot of aero package to it, any little bit of fresh air you can get onto that car is going to be beneficial. Masetti has the advantage on that aspect. Brian Fine definitely has the advantage with 11-lap newer tires over the 8 of Masetti.
The last thing that Brian Fine needs right now is a caution. He got 2 cautions when he needed them. Now he needs this race to stay green, and as I said, he's been Mr. Lucky tonight. Hoping this race can stay green, still using the inside line to try to rotate that car through 3 and 4. Just can't quite get close enough to Masetti in order to make a move.
Massetti's carrying a little more speed through 1 and 2. Fine makes it all up, though, in 3 and 4. And lap traffic could play a factor, as that is the 5 of Ryan Ezel.
So Ezel, Fine hoping Ezel can play a factor here in the final couple of laps. And Fine's not scot-free here. The Folds of Honor 250 winner is sitting right behind him in that 3rd position, and Marco Dell is also right there. So if one of these 2 up at the front make a mistake, this race has a completely different complexion than right now. Boy, that's another big wiggle from Fine.
Fine is definitely up on the wheel right now. He's driving the tires off that car, so that he's basically giving up that 11-lap advantage because he's overdriving the wheels off the number 57 right now.
Trying to make up ground by brute force. is the 57. You can see that's Boy Roberts getting really sideways trying to get around the 5 of Ryan Izell. There's Kevin Zabladil battling
Bean
as
to
I
the
think,
inside.
yep, Bean is going for the second position, and he has made the pass going down into turn 1. Fine. Would have to assume Fine took too hard an entry going into 1, and now that has put Ryan Bean back in the fray.
What happened was Massetti got a little sideways going through 3 and 4. Fine kind of backed off a little bit, didn't jump on the gas as hard as he probably should have or could have, and that let Bean get the run as we are going to be 10 to go this time across the stripe. Massetti showing the way. He just got to hang on for 10 more laps. Bean, Fine, Odell right there with him, and then you're almost 3 seconds back to the 2 of Will Roberts Jr.
Massetti looking very vulnerable right now in that number 8 as Ryan Bean tries his best to get around the 8 in any way, shape, or form that he can. The 28 has been a little bit quicker each and every lap. Both drivers doing a 29.51 last time around. Brian Fine, the fastest of this top 4, running a 29.4 last time around. So still, that 57 has the advantage. He just doesn't have the track position.
As Massetti and Bean go 29.3 to Fine's 29.4 that time, Odell giving a lot of pressure to Fine right now, making him really rethink his every move as he's filling the rearview mirror of it. Oh!
It's Fine. Boy, Fine had a big moment coming out of the dog leg. Let's move those 2 back now. Bean trying to diamond off of turn 4. He's got the run. He's got the pass. Ryan Bean, if he could keep the cars straight here, would have a very good shot. Massetti battling with him every inch. 8 laps to go. Lead is side by side.
Massetti taking the longer way around, throws it into 3, still side by side in the middle of 3 and 4. Give the nose to Bean coming off of 4. Still drag race to the stripe. A little bit of wiggle for Bean. That's going to give Massetti the advantage again. Bean going to try it one more time, flirting with that inside wall at the end of pit road, though.
Massetti tried to take the entry as wide as he possibly could in 1 to try to cut down and straight line the exit. Odell hits the wall coming out of turn 2, and him trying to do that has just cost him the race lead. Now it's Ryan Bean who has the advantage as we come down to 6 laps to go. This is your battle for the race lead here. All 4 of these drivers is Fine, pushing a little too hard behind him. It appears to be these 2. Ryan Bean a little bit hard on the exit. Pushes up the racetrack. That's going to give a big momentum push to Trevor Massetti.
Massetti with a run going into 3, not close enough to capitalize this time, as we are going to be 4 to go this time across the stripe. Sorry, 5 to go this time across the stripe. Bean, Massetti, Fine, and Odell, your top 4. You see him in the shot right there.
Bean has got the back end of turn 3 and 4 figured out, and that is where he's making a lot of his ground up. He's taking a wide exit in 1 and 2, which is hurting him, but with how he's diamonding turn 3 and 4, that certainly has him pointed in a straight direction quicker, and that is helping him pull out this advantage as he is trying to use every ounce of those Goodyear tires that he has left. 4 laps to go and 0.07 of a second quicker than Trevor Massetti. This looks to be like it's headed towards 2 for 2 for Ryan Bean this year.
Bean could go 2 for 2 as Massetti's got his rear view mirrors filled with that McDonald's 57 of Brian Fine. Fine trying to make it happen. Popsicle sticks in the air, 2 laps to go. Ryan Bean in the 28 with a commanding lead so far. Just has to hang on for 2 more miles.
And it is getting quite close here. 3 laps to go here at Phoenix. Ryan Bean now stretching that advantage out to a half a second. Brian Fine now trying to get the second step of the podium while simultaneously trying not to lose the third step. as, boy, all of those cars get loose coming out of turn 4. Fine takes a look, doesn't have the run going into turn 1.
And Ryan Bean, looking in his rearview mirror, has got to be loving what he's seeing as Musetti, Fine, and Odell just slugging it out right now for the second and third step of the podium. As Bean getting ready to take the white flag, this time across the stripe with almost a half second to the good over Trevor Musetti in the 8th.
An incident has happened with William Roberts. We'll take a look at that after the race has completed, as we are on the final lap here. Musetti, Fine, and Odell will have to battle for the second position, because with a half a second advantage right now heading into turn 3, Ryan Bean, who won the first stage of the night, won the Folds of Honor 250, has the best start to the season you could possibly ask for. Ryan Bean wins the battle to beat the heat 156 here at Phoenix.
Bean, Musetti, Fine, Odell, and Kevin Ruff rounding out your top 5.
Very good start for Kevin Ruff as well. Again, Ruff finishing second at Daytona last week. Back-to-back top 5s for him to open up this season. We'll take a look here. This is what happened between... this is what happened with Roberts, and you can see there Roberts having a big fit of oversteer coming out of turn 2. Gets into the wall and just pulls it off, it looks like. Yep, he just pulled it off.
Just tried no moss and just put it on the hauler.
Unfortunately, with only a couple of laps to go, decided that was it, as Ryan Bean, as mentioned, will go 2 for 2 on this season. And in just a moment, we will get the drivers that finished in the top spots. And right now, we will go to your race winner. Tony, you are with Ryan Bean.
Ryan Bean opening the season here, going 2 for 2. Congratulations on the victory here tonight at ISM.
Yeah, thank you guys. Man, that was one of the toughest races I've ever had on this sim racing deal.
Now, we saw you flirting with disaster there in the closing laps with that inside pit wall. When Musetti got by you early on, you kind of fell back a little bit. Was that to conserve tires so you had something towards the end, or were you just not able to do it in the dirty air?
Yeah, the pit stops kept screwing me up. I kept pitting from first, coming out in second, and I knew it was going to be tough to pass Trevor. He's a really good racer. I raced with him in a couple other leagues. But once, I was trying to pass him, trying, I couldn't get it. And then the 57 caught us, and I missed my breaking point into 3 and 4. So I kind of let them decide, and then they both missed turn 1. And then next thing you know, I'm in second and contending for the win. So, and then somehow my tires came back to life. So I got really lucky there.
Now, with the last pit stop there, we saw you almost get into it with Mark Odell as you were slowing down to go onto pit road, and he almost got into your back bumper. You had to turn right before you could turn left. How much time do you think that cost you?
Yeah, first off, I'm sorry for Mark. I called out the pit on the dog leg, and I kind of just over drove the corner and had to float up. So it was all my fault. I turned right to avoid him, didn't want him to drive through me. I think I maybe lost good 2-3 seconds from it. But luckily, I knew I had a good long run car, so I wasn't going to let it beat me up too bad. Well,
again, Ryan, congratulations on going 2 for 2. Is there anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, first off, my teammate Kevin Ruff. He's really good with the strategies. I can't do any of these races without him. I think he got a top 5 as well, so it was a good result for our team. Second, the league. This is gonna be really fun. I'm really enjoying these cars. They're a handful to drive, but super fun and well worth it. And lastly, you guys, you your broadcast is amazing. Can't wait to rewatch this one.
Well, again, Ryan, congratulations on going 2 for 2 here in the start of the season. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, guys.
So that was your race winner, Ryan Bean, here. And in just a moment, we will get to our second place finisher, Trevor Massetti. And I know what the first question I will be asking him is as we bring Massetti in. Trevor, it looked like you gave everything you had, but in the end, it just came up a little bit too short. Just talk us through that last battle with Ryan.
I mean, first of all, that was a lot of fun, but I just didn't have the long run speed that I wanted. Definitely felt better on the short runs and just could not get the car to stick going into turn one. And Bean was able to carry a lot more speed through the center of 3 and 4 than I was, so he was getting me there. But I was fighting.
Yeah, you absolutely were, and you put on one heck of a fight all night long. This is the first time we've been to an intermediate track in these cars this season. We're going to be going to a ton more. Ryan said it was a difficult car to handle, but it was a lot of fun. What was from your point of view, what did the car feel like on the first intermediate track of the season?
I think just like he said, they're tough to handle, and you definitely gotta be on top of the wheel at all times. But it's a blast being able to, I don't know, just the sounds compared to the modern day Cup cars and the amount of throttle control that it takes to get them around a track like this is pretty crazy.
All right, anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I gotta say hi to Mom and Dad, Grammy and Nono, Nana and Grandpa, Auntie Karen and Uncle Craig, and Mickey. And I want to thank you guys for broadcasting. You guys put on an awesome show. All the admins for making this thing possible and letting us have fun every weekend. So, yeah.
All right, there's your second place finisher here tonight, Trevor Massetti. Bud, congratulations. All right, so now we will bring in our third place finisher here tonight, Brian Fine. And Tony, I believe you are with him.
Prime time, Brian Fine. You had us a little bit worried there early on as you burned through your first 3 sets of tires before the halfway point, but you were able to hang on here for the podium. Talk us through the tire strategy there that you were going through tonight.
Yeah, just going for it tonight, guys. Burn the first set, just kind of see how tires were going. Me and the crew, got together and figured, hey, tires are going good. Let's get after it tonight, and we showcased it.
Well, you definitely had the advantage, but you were showing that you were really driving the wheel off that car, up on the wheel all night long, and battling it out with Mark Odell and Trevor Massetti there, trying to figure out who was going to finish on the podium and who wasn't.
Yeah. Running with those guys, super fun tonight. Couple of close calls. We were all racing clean with each other tonight and everything like that. So, good run for everybody tonight. Good run for the team. Just great night overall. I'll take it with that.
Well, moving into next week, we go from one jewel of the desert to the next. We go from Phoenix to Vegas. Your thoughts as we go to the first mile and a half on the season?
Well, if we can get the top side rocking and rolling, high side's going to work out well. Bottom side, if bottom side rubber is up before the top side, it's going to be a game changer. But let's run that, like what they call the Larson line. Let's get after it.
All right. Well, Brian, is there anybody you want to thank before we let you go tonight?
Yeah, big shout out to my teammates tonight at Zab Motorsports. Want to give a big shout out to my girlfriend tonight. She's been through a lot. I want to give a big shout out to my mom. I know she's been through a lot tonight. I know they're all watching. Just thank you for all the support, and thank you for what you guys do up there and all the admins here in this league.
All right. Well, Brian, again, congratulations on the podium. We'll see you next week in Vegas.
And for it, thanks, guys.
All right, so that was your third place finisher here tonight, Brian Fine. And Tony, we saw one heck of a race with a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment here tonight, and just really, really a great show all the way around.
Absolutely. I mean, we were watching a high-speed chess match all night long. You know, it may not seem like a lot to the casual observer, but that's exactly what we just saw tonight here at ISM. It was just a chess match. You know, the tire strategies, the fuel strategies, how hard do you go, when do you go, you know, when do you try to push the
envelope,
point.
right?
Yeah, when do you try to push the point to try to make some headrow? You know, we saw a lot of clean racing, and that's the biggest take home from this. That a lot of leagues out there, if you're looking to start up a league, take a look at what we just saw tonight. We saw these guys do 156 laps, and I believe there's only 3 cautions.
Yep, only 3, and everybody finished the race here tonight. And with that, we will go to the results here for tonight's race as Ryan Bean, again, will go 2 for 2 here at the start of this season, beating Trevor Massetti and Brian Fine, the podium finishers, to the line. Mark Odell, Kevin Ruff, rounding out the top 5. Rusty Modesty, Carl Burke, Jordan Collins, Matt Opbrook, and Kevin Zabladil, that was what it was, coming home in the 10th position, with Kevin Sibilia and Chad Biesinger rounding out the lead lap cars, finishing 11th and 12th.
Mike Sheffield, your first car 1 lap down. In 13th, Brian Swoop, Will Roberts Jr., after having that issue on the last lap, dropping to 15th. Jordan Eder in 16th. Mike Haro in 17th. Ryan Easel in 18th. 19 goes to Josh Maxwell, Jerry Culver in 20th. And rounding out the field after eating the pit road wall, and that crew doing yeoman's work to get it back out on track to finish this event, the number 9 of Jeff Carson in 21st.
And with that, that will do it for us here tonight on ESPN. Again, coming up tomorrow will be the Rowdy Energy Cup Series. They will be at Talladega on Monday night, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that series and with super speedways in general, when it comes to leagues, expect a packed house tomorrow night at Talladega. Coming up on Tuesday, 2 races for you. The UK Sim Racing's MX5 Pro Series will be at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit after they were at the Nordschleife a couple of weeks ago. That race will be starting off at 2:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the nightcap will be the Western States Racing League from Michigan at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time. A double dip for you coming up on Wednesday night, as well as the Endurance for Beginners Series will run round number 4 of their season. They will be at Sebring at 8:25 p.m. Eastern Time, and then the Sim Racers Edge Alpha Series at 8:45 will be at Iowa. Coming up on Thursday night will be the DOB doubleheader. Both of those, both series, the 410 Sprint cars and the Big Block Modifieds, will be in their season finales, and they will both be at the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Coming up on Friday night will be the Circle B Diecast Super Speedway Series, the last race before the playoffs for that series. They will be at Daytona in the Cup cars starting at 8:20, and then Saturday off before we bring you the Medieval Racing League's round number 3 from Las Vegas next week at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time. So for my broadcast partner, Tony Trapasso, I'm Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. Have a fantastic night, everybody.